it's Drybear. Yesterday, we started a series that is going over the professions in Star Citizen with cargo hauling, which is one of the most easily accessible. And the idea here is that you start at the very lowest level and work our way up. So if yesterday was the level 1 of cargo hauling, I'd like to move up to the next stage. We'll talk about what we learned and what we can improve upon for the next stage and how we can get up to the next level as we go up. And so I think a lot of that is learning the gameplay loops in Star Citizen and starting to understand what you can do to earn credits in game and unlock things for you. So we started out using 2 of the starter ships, the beginning one, which is the Avenger Titan, which has an 8 SCU cargo limit, and then the Nomad, which has a 24 SCU cargo limit. However, once you get past the very beginning of cargo hauling, you start to realize there are some great ships that are available for a 24-hour or more rent that make it a lot easier to do the cargo hauling. One of my favorite choices for this is going to be the Hull A. The Hull A is an easy ship to pick up that has not only 64 SCU of cargo hauling, but also has a crazy external storage for cargo. So to rent a ship, you just need to go to a rental services terminal. There are some in the major cities, but if you're looking for the Hull A, you'll find it at most cargo service areas at the space stations out in Star Citizen. You just have to come here to the Traveler Rental Services, go down to the Hull A and rent it. It is very cheap for a single day. You could also get the Nomad if you wanted to, and in some cases you can get some really big choices, but 34,000 Alpha UEC for the Hull A is super easy, and it gives you 64 SCU of cargo, and all of that is stored outside the ship, which means you don't have to worry about applying cargo directly inside of a door. You don't have to worry about ramps or anything. You just bring the ship out and you can put the cargo right on top. So today we're gonna do the same thing we did with the level 1 version of cargo hauling. We're just gonna go through completing some contracts with the Hull A, showing some gameplay, and just getting some tips along the way. So this is level 2 of cargo hauling. Once you've graduated from the very beginning using the beginner ships, you can rent out the Hull A at a terminal and pick it up and start picking up some bigger missions. Now, when choosing contracts for the Hull A, I mean, typically you kind of have to balance out gaining rep versus gaining credits. Usually what I'd recommend if you're just starting out is to get credits right off the bat, but it is useful to gain rep, as if you can get up to the experienced level of rep, you can start doing some serious hauling missions, and at the experienced/expert level, you actually get some of the highest credits per hour that you can get in the entire game. So sometimes if you have enough credits to rent the Hull A, which isn't much, it's like a single contract's worth, you rent the Hull A and then you just start farming for rep, which means you want to do the highest rank that you can do. If you were following along with the video yesterday, you would do rookie until you get to junior. Now that we're junior, we want to pick up some rookie and junior missions and contracts that fit really well, and generally I like to do the direct ones that go from place to place. What you can do is select multiple hauling missions and just I like to make a spreadsheet that shows where you can go and where all the drop-offs are, and this can really expedite some of the gains. In fact, some of the best credit per hour gains that you can get is just mostly around getting multiple small or extra small cargo missions, loading it up on a big ship that can hold all of that cargo, and then putting it together in the end as you go from place to place. Now, as is with the case with the Hull A and the Hull C, and actually a lot of the Hull ships that are coming out as well, is they will have 2 different configurations. They will have their normal configuration, which is just for nav and flight, and then they have their extended cargo configuration. So to change it for the Hull A, you want to fly up into the air and press left Alt and K. K is in karate. So you want to deploy it out, and you can see that this cargo area deploys out. And unlike the Hull C, you can actually land the Hull A on the ground while it is in its cargo hauling configuration. And what's great about this, and my favorite part, that's why I love the raft and the Hull A for cargo, is the cargo hold is on the outside of the ship. You don't have to worry about doors or ramps or ladders. You can just stick all the cargo you have on the outside of the ship, take off, and move to the next location. So you can see with all these different contracts we've selected, there's a lot of cargo to go here. You saw down at the bottom, I do have some store all containers, which can be useful for some setups and configurations because you can store these smaller boxes inside of them, but I'll leave that for a higher level of cargo hauling. Right now, we're just going to focus on just putting the cargo directly onto the ship before we take off to the next location. And with the cargo up, it's time to start loading the hull A. My recommendation is trying to keep the load balanced between the two different sides. It technically can have a full load of 32 on one side of the ship and still be fine, but sometimes when you're pulling the crates on and off of the ship, it can cause it to tilt or react to the weight distribution. So it is kind of useful to have some distribution on either side so it's a little bit more balanced. A tip I have for you when you're doing cargo is try to keep the large boxes next to each other so you can always get to the little ones if you need to. And also one thing that I recommend when you're doing multiple deliveries for cargo is to keep the same type of material next to each other, right? So if you get tungsten, put all the tungsten in one spot. If you get stims, put all the stims in one spot. And this will help you when you're doing multiple deliveries so you don't have things stacked on top of each other that make it inaccessible to other options. And these 8 1 SCU boxes for tungsten are a great option if you have an 8 SCU store all box. But again, that's a little bit more complicated and it does have some bugs with it, so I'll leave that for another video. We're just gonna load it directly onto the ship instead of putting it in a storage container. Another great tip that I have here that is a mistake in this video is you can see that I actually took 2 contracts that have the same hauling material. And this is something that I would recommend as you get better and more higher up in the hauling material, is just to actually only take 1 contract of a certain material and not to double up on them. Oftentimes you can get the boxes mixed up. So since I have 2 contracts, both requiring stems, sometimes you end up getting confused on which stems go to which place. And there are also some bugs where certain boxes have to go to a spot, even though they are technically stems as well. Sometimes it just gets kind of wonky from there. So my recommendation, if you're trying to do this a lot, is just to try and pick contracts that only 1 contract that has 1 type of material, and then deliver that before you pick up a new one. So if it has tungsten, don't take another contract that has tungsten. If it has processed food, don't take another contract that has processed food until you're done delivering that, because it keeps your cargo very simple and straightforward. So here we've got our tungsten stored in one quadrant. We have our processed food on the opposite side here, and then we have stems in its own corner as well. And sometimes the boxes will have their own distinctive look. So like waste and scrap will have the dirty brown box, and then processed food and stems will have this white medical box. And then you can have, like, you know, for metals like tungsten, silicon, carbon, aluminum, they'll have kind of like the more industrial boxes on them as well. But even then, or even like agricultural supplies will have a green box, but even then you really want to make sure you're separating these things out so that when you finally take off to do your multi-stage delivery, it's very quick and easy. You land at the location, deliver the boxes you need, and move on to the next one, because ultimately time is money, friend, and you want to make sure you're keeping pace. But you already see the capacity that we have dealing with, starting with the Avenger Titan with only 8 SCU, and all of it has to be flat unless you go off grid, versus the Hull A for 34,000 credits. We can store 8 times that amount, and we have a lot more to play around with. And again, I can't stress how much I love being able to store cargo on the outside of the ship without doorways getting in the way. So we're gonna hail ATC. We got our cargo. We're ready to move on to the next location. Now, one thing I'm not showcasing here, because I do want to kind of continue this stepwise function of going up bit by bit, so people can see as your skill set changes and your equipment changes, you get better at it. Oh, actually, looks like I am going to do it. You want to try and align your ship with the freight elevator. The closer you can get to it and the better you can align with it, the more effective it can be. It's probably better just to take the back of the hull A next to the elevator, but if you know exactly where the cargo is here, like we know what we're delivering, you can go on which side you've stored on. Since you keep everything organized, you can land that way with it right next to the elevator, and then you can dump in the elevator and be on your way. And here we are. We are needing 8 SCU of tungsten. It's all in one quadrant. So we're going to pick it up, throw it on the elevator, turn it in, and get ready for the next location. Send the elevator down, complete the contract, and we're on to the next spot. It's also good to check distances so you're not quantum jumping everywhere. You can check it by looking at the map, or as you learn the game, you know where things are in certain solar systems, and you can kind of combine those together. Or you can just track the quest and then make sure that you're carrying it, and also just make sure you're keeping a track on your hydration and food, and that you don't, die from hunger or thirst while you're traveling around. In the current state of the game, 4.1, I would actually recommend trying to avoid outpost deliveries, mainly because the freight elevators and outposts can get a little squirrely and can break on you. In the future, this might change or get better over time, but in this case, luckily, we were able to get the freight elevator to work for us so we can come through and deliver this and finish off the job. If you ever get a contract where you do a partial delivery and it breaks, I want to make sure that people know that you don't want to ever abandon a contract because you will lose rep for it. So your best bet is to wait for it to time out, or sometimes with partial contracts, you can go to the contract itself and then select a submit button from the mobiGlas, which allows you to get partial rewards and close out the contract without losing rep for abandoning it. This is one of those situations where it could have gone much worse. Since I have two contracts that both don't require stims, I've had it happen where it requires a specific box. Even though there's multiple of the same size, it could require a specific one, which may slow down your delivery process and that sort of thing. So this is actually one of those situations that did happen. You can see that I have, even though I have the right stims box, I have like the right amount of stims, it's not the right stims box that it requires. So actually it's the wrong same size stim box. So for some reason they hard code these to be like, there's a specific box that has to go to that specific contract. It's not asking for the right amount. So again, this is why I generally recommend people don't accept contracts that have the same delivery item to multiple locations over multiple contracts, because then you can run into this confusion where so like right here, this stims box is, even though it is the right size, it is the wrong contracted box, so I need a different one in there to fix the problem. So there you go. It was the same size box with the same container. It was a 4 SCU stims box, but this one, it needed to be at the specific stims box. So if we hadn't accepted a contract that had the same material, we wouldn't have had this slowdown trying to figure out which box goes to which place. You can see another space trucker left behind some materials here. I'm considering whether I want to go scrap these. You can actually pick up left behind materials from other ships, like their guns or weapons, or any hauling that they left behind, and you can go like scrap it at a scrapyard, like at a salvage area. It's not really super worth it. The money isn't crazy high, but you could see I was considering it for a second since I was already kind of in the area, and I'm kind of near a salvage station where I could go sell that material if I wanted to. Maybe someday soon, CIG will release a trash can system so we aren't filthy litter bugs leaving bottles and wrappers all over the place with no way to get rid of it. Another thing to be wary of when we're doing deliveries to outposts is they can often be areas for aggression or pirates. You can see over there, I see that they had a tank on the ground, so I was kind of worried that they were going to set up. And a lot of these places, they don't have armistice zones, or the armistice zone is very small, which means you could very easily get caught up in some risky business. So as you start getting, payloads that are higher and more valuable over time, you start to figure out ways to avoid pirating and people attacking and taking your cargo. With cargo this size, it's not really a huge deal, but when you start getting into the hundreds or thousands of SCU, you want to be careful with that, but we'll leave that for a higher level of this progression series. So I think what happened here is I ended up submitting the wrong box to another warehouse. So now this contract is a little broken here. Again, another reason not to do the same delivery contract item to the same space. So I think we actually gave the stems up to another platform and stored them there, and this is the wrong 4 SCU box. In this situation, what you can do is you can just submit early on the contract. You'll get a partial completion based on what you've done, and you'll be able to maintain your rep without abandoning the contract. But with bugs like these, it can get a little confusing. So watching this back, this is old footage, but watching this back, I think I realized that the box that I left behind on the outpost is probably the one that's needed for this contract, and then one of these 3 was needed for the other. So this is probably an incomplete delivery. Yep, so there it is. So it's 2 out of 3. So this was the case where I needed one of these 3 boxes was there for the outpost, and the one at the outpost was here for this delivery. So lesson learned there, either don't take the contract for multiples of the same cargo type, or just be very careful about delivering them. But there you go, there's the lesson learned. It's definitely something I know now, but back when I was leveling up my cargo experience, I hadn't learned the ways in this, and hopefully in future patches they clean this up so it's a little bit easier. And that'll conclude this run here. A big lesson around the contracts themselves, but hopefully we'll make it a little bit more obvious for that. And it certainly is a step up from level 1 using the Avenger Titan to make small cargo runs. The Hull A is a very easy, accessible option. You can do a single contract, get enough credits to rent it, and then use it for your cargo hauling. Let me know if you like this kind of video, and we'll keep leveling up and try the other professions. There's new professions coming out. There's radiation gameplay loops, salvaging, mining, bunker busting, mercenary, collection, and everything else. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.